before we start.
Yeah.
Chopping down this pita wrap. It's good.
Yes. Did you ever play any Star Wars games as a kid?
Oh yeah. I would say probably my favorite was the Lego Star Wars. Did you ever play the Lego Star Wars?
Oh heck yeah, I play them actually quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a good
We
one.
have a Wii in the house, so right now I'm playing The Force Unleashed.
My brother loved that game.
Specifically the second one, which is even better.
Yeah, I heard that too. But, what about that new one, the Jedi Order, whatever it is?
Jedi Fallen Order?
Yeah.
I'd love to get it, but it's really expensive right now on Steam.
Yeah, it is.
But hey, this is the next best. Yeah, this is the next best thing for like Star Wars Dark Souls amalgamations.
Yeah.
It has really good graphics, and it's just such a beautiful game when it comes to taking people out. It's just like music to your ears.
Yeah, you know what I really liked about that game? I liked the graphics, I liked the music, and I liked all the visuals.
Yeah, the visuals were just very pleasing.
They could have done the story better.
Yeah, they could have done better. I think it needed a lot more levels.
Too simplistic. Too cliche.
Yeah.
Too predictable.
Yeah. Good guys win, yada yada yada. Oh, come on. Force
The good
Acolytes.
guys still win, but you can still make it more dynamic than that.
Yeah.
Especially if you have two games. Well, in the first game, maybe the good guys don't win. Maybe it takes two whole games for the guys to win.
Yeah. That's kind of how the way it went with the. That's kind of the way it went with the actual trilogy. It took them 3 episodes to win.
This rap's so good.
You guys should see my living room. I've got Star Wars everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a treat for my ears.
Me and my girl, we just made up AT-AT and then an ATST out of Lego.
Nice. I'd love to see that.
Howdy.
Hey, it's the man of the hour. What's good, buddy?
Good. I was just writing a bit of a speech in work.
Nice. So, well, I'll let you know, obviously. Town Hall will be similar to normal formats. I'll have an opening segment. I'll go over some things that we've been doing, like as a whole, as the stuff, question, answer, a chance for people to speak. And then after that, we'll dive right into your stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I'm interested in this town hall. I'm interested in all town halls, even if I didn't read what they're about.
This one is a little bit more advanced. He's Keaton's basically our IT guy. He's the guy with the knowledge of internet, owns his own business and stuff. Yeah, yeah. So he's gonna teach us a few things we didn't know. And I'll tell you that.
We're gonna be taught things.
Well, I'm not sure if I'd quite put it like that, but just simply going
Oh
over some
jeez.
of the issues that are going to be happening, or not going to be happening, but that are present and what we should fix as a
Yeah.
independent. Basically, my speech at the end calls for a massive push for um, 4G implementation westward wide, which would require a fair amount of government subsidies to build the infrastructure to be able to do that. But if we want everyone to have equal internet access, that's kind of the only way to, as a minimum, that's
Are
the
you
only
wanting
way
to
to
talk
get.
about like net neutrality and stuff like that?
Um, I hadn't planned that, but I mean that's fairly open to discussion. I think it's completely wrong for that to be ever implemented, or I think it's wrong for that to be repealed. I should say that we.
Well, yeah, and I think you should maybe talk too about maybe like some of the censorship issues. If you know more on that, especially.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I can write something. No, I'm not sure if I'll have enough time to add on, but
Oh, if you can, it's all good. The other thing too is, we'll all be asking questions. So,
yep.
all right, let's hear to the question where. Yeah, definitely talking about Huawei. Assuming you already have something on that.
No, mine was purely on infrastructure, but I'd be absolutely glad to talk.
I think we should definitely Huawei.
Yeah, yeah. I was rather lazy today and then realized all of a sudden, oh crap, I gotta write something up and prep.
Oh yeah, no, and so what I'll do too is like if you don't if you like forget or whatever, or you don't mention like those things we're talking about, I'll just try to chime in with like a question
Yeah, sure.
and kind of do it that way. That's how I've done it last time. Like where if I think there's something we should have covered that we didn't
Mm-hmm.
question. Um, and that's something for you guys to think about. Questions is yeah, just think on some questions even right now. Ask um even if they're the other thing too, I was thinking Keaton, because it's such a broad topic, if they ask something that you don't know, try to see if somebody else has the answer.
Yep. I'm gonna deafen myself so I can write something up.
Oh yeah. That's not a good sign. We're losing everybody. Well, I'll be honest, guys. I'm a little bit worried about the turnout. 5 minutes too. We don't have very many people here, I guess. Well, I know there's not a lot, like a decent amount of people coming later. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this. I was just gonna say, I'm pretty sure this guys. I think this. Sorry, go ahead. All right, I'll do one. I'll do one. Are you ready, Justin? Get that bowl ready. Hey Tony, I was thinking if maybe you want to maybe start off with the petition. I'm just kind of like I just kind of want to smoke the bowl. It might take me
Yeah,
over
I can do that.
7 o'clock. Yeah, and I'll take over once we're done with that. I want that to be one of the big focuses anyway, because of the progress.
Yeah, I can do that.
Hi, Joanne. How's it going? Might have you having trouble. Hopefully she can get in here. Why is everybody disconnected?
Sorry, had to reconnect. Couldn't hear anyone when they were speaking.
Okay, I think that's part of the problem. I'm gonna change to US East and see if it helps, guys. I know US East is not as close, but sometimes I change it'll actually input volume based. There we go. That should be better. Sounds good, Joanne. All right, it's 7 o'clock. We'll kick this off. I'm just doing something real quick here, so I am gonna let Tony be the first to speak on the town hall. First off, thanks all for coming, guys. I really appreciate everybody's input, everybody showing up, and then listening to what everybody has to say and contributing with your questions and your comments. Yeah, and what Tony's going to focus on is the petition. And yeah, feel free to talk about anything else you feel like talking about there, Tony. Oh, I think you're getting cut off. We didn't hear you. Yeah, you're cutting out.
This would be a perfect segue into my speech.
I know, right? Let's try this again. Try one more time.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So Rock got our Saskatchewan petition here up to the lawyer, the wizard. He was looking at it on the server here. Looks like it's good to go. We are not going to be trying to push it for December here because it's Christmas. Going to be hard to get signatures at Christmas. So mid-January is when I think is when we're shooting for to try and start doing some signature drives. So any Saskatchewan people, we have a separate server that we set up for the Saskatchewan petition. So if you don't see the invite in the Saskatchewan thing, just PM myself, Death, or Rock, and we will get that link sent to you. And then you can join in and we can discuss where we're going to be setting up for signatures. Parking lots are probably preferred because most businesses I don't think are going to be okay with having people coming in and out all day just to sign a signature. I know malls have not been on board with it. So if you do think a business is going to in your area, give them a call before you just assume. Otherwise, we end up with a Wexit problem where they didn't have permission. And we want to avoid angering these businesses. We kind of need their support. Once we get the signatures that we need, then we will get those papers back to probably Rock is probably the best one to do. He's in Regina. But we'll work all that out in our side of it. Another thing we've really been focusing on is we've got our think tank group up and running now, which was a big thing for us because now we've got people like Kathy Flett, Ralph Ambrose, and we've got a few other groups that are in there. We're still waiting on Larry Smith and his group to send people over, but he has said they will. So really good to have all these groups working together now and working towards one common goal rather than being all spread out and doing their own thing. I know we had a meeting today with Scott Thompson and their group there with the Mythos Canada group, and we've had several different groups that we have gotten rolling here. And it's very exciting times to be getting all these people going. So if you do have any other groups that you think that we should be working with, just let us know who you think we should be working with, and we'll try and reach out and make contact. Because the more of these groups we can get working together, the better, rather than us all being working against each other, basically. So that to me is a pretty big push that we've done. Continue contacting our MLAs or MDs, I mean, in Alberta there for the wheatland motion, because we still need.
I actually have an important update regarding that. So, and that will be coming. I'll dive into that shortly. But let's just say that the wheatland motion is no longer of much interest to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I will let you tackle that then later.
Yeah, the other thing maybe you should dive into too is our team on the ground in Saskatchewan and how we're wanting to build that.
You mean like in terms of
in
the
terms
signatures?
Of Aaron and the fact that
Aaron,
he's done. Yeah, and just basically getting all these guys together from Saskatchewan to start helping us out with the signatures, including some of the guys who have helped out with Wexit before.
Yes, like Mark.
They'll help out with our signatures as well.
Yeah, we have meetings with them to try and work out that. Yeah, for sure. That would be a big thing because we need to get things rolling in Saskatchewan. I know Alberta, we're starting to see some things rolling, so Saskatchewan needs to get on with that as well. But yeah, I know we have a meeting tonight to discuss with somebody who's with Wexit there. We'll likely be getting his help for getting some of the signatures out as well, just because he has lots of experience. And if we can start working with some of these Wexit people, it would be advantageous to us, advantageous for everybody. So that will be tonight that we're discussing that after the town hall here. So we'll have an update for that pretty quickly here. But I know Aaron, yeah, he was working on the petition with us. He's had some health problems, so I know he's been struggling with that. So we've been kind of giving him a little bit of a break with that. But I know when the petition does go out, John Gormley sounds pretty interested in speaking with us about it. So we may have that coming up here as well. Again, we'll have more updates as it gets closer, because I imagine he wants to speak on it probably close to the date when it actually gets launched. But yeah, lots going on here. I am probably missing all kinds of things, but my memory does suck. But I do think we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we've gotten a lot accomplished in the last week, especially here, just in terms of contacts and getting things rolling. So it's good to see. And for all those who are from other groups who are in here today, thanks for joining us. We're very happy to have you guys on board and have you guys working with us. Look forward to those relationships. if you're ready, you can go ahead, or Keaton, whoever.
Yeah, no, definitely I can go ahead there. What I'll do basically is I'm going to go over our weekly update, and I'll probably add in a couple things myself as well. So we already talked about the Saskatchewan petition. The other thing we'll talk about too, I'll talk about first of all broadly the nonprofit that we're planning on setting up. Now, this nonprofit we're planning on setting up with the coordination between multiple groups and have multiple goals. One of the most important goals, in my view, is going to be the charity work, giving back to our communities, and being almost like a support system for people out there who are struggling right now in this downturn. But also, of course, to be able to take more proactive actions like supporting the constitutional conventions, like working with these different political entities, like doing marketing and getting the word out there, and on more of a mass professional scale. And being a nonprofit, there's many things we can do to that will make us all look, really good, and have a positive spin on this movement, right? And and I think that this is really the way to go about it. And somebody in BC has already kind of started that process. So I'll kind of go over that next. I was talking with a gentleman by the name of Billy McElwain, had about an hour-long conversation with the guy. You may have noticed that we have a channel in now that's called the Western Canadian Independence Foundation channel. That's for his foundation there in BC. So he set it up for basically this purpose, to get the constitutional conventions rolling, to help people in his community, and to reach out to the First Nations, and also to they also want to look into starting up an emergency citizen response team as well, to further help in our communities in the most proactive way possible, especially in some of these rural areas, which are having a really tough time. So I'll read you guys kind of what he's all about. He says, "We are the driving force for the separation of Western Canada from Eastern Canadian rule in the interests of the Crown. We do this with both great sorrow and at the failure and decline of Canada under aggressive, immoral, and corrupt governance, and with excitement for the very rare opportunity of finally realizing a new country founded on the principles of liberty. We promote the concept of a constitutionally limited government, the creation of that constitution and the provisions in that constitution that will allow the greatest level of personal liberty without the risk of leaving behind the vulnerable. This is primarily achieved by embracing the non-first use of aggression by government against peaceful citizens, something that we currently have no protection from under the Canadian Constitution Act of 1982, which nullifies our right to individual liberty based on a loosely stated fundamental justice. We reach out to hear the real concerns of all Westerners and their overwhelming hunger for liberty and freedom in a country that is being recolonized and increasingly threatened by government force and destructive interference in commerce. And listen to the people that were here long before Europeans arrived to learn of their position and recommendations of the very best partnership in saving the great land in the West. We will produce various drafts of a people's constitution that is intended to be the basic guidance and restraint to any government elected, so that the people can go about their lives no longer inflamed by the belligerence and misconduct of their representatives. They can vote once again for what they believe in, rather than the perpetual protest voting that has plagued Canada for decades. We will visit as many populated centers in Western Canada to host meetings, share our knowledge, and supply the fundamental backbone of a constitution that the people can deliver to the government, in order for the people only to authorize the limitations of power and not be subject to any further rules arbitrarily imposed on them by government. Cows do not own cows, they work together." And then he has his website and his Facebook group there. And yeah, no, I love what I'm hearing there, and I think it's definitely a great way to go about it. And another thing that kind of ties in with the nonprofit idea that I was talking about earlier, that we were talking also with the Myth today about, is that possibly we're hoping that maybe we could charter off his foundation And so we already have like something already kind of set up, and we can expand it to Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. It's definitely an ambitious goal, and I think this is the way to take to the next level. That pretty much everybody should be able to agree on. And that's the whole point: getting everybody together, getting people of the political mindset together. Those 30% that do vote, basically, or 60%, however you want to calculate it, and the rest that don't. you know. So. Where else do I have here? So. Yeah, we already talked think tank. Okay, so we have a couple events coming up, some very important events. So first off, we have the Wexit protests in Edmonton at the legislature building, which I think is a great opportunity for everybody to come together, make some inroads, meet some people, and hopefully get everybody working together. And the thing is, as I said, it's not just one mindset. We have to just kind of present first and foremost that we're for everybody, and that the way to do this is to unite everyone, right? And then of course we can list off the different ways that we can achieve separation, whether it be through the Constitution or through the Clarity Act or whatever strategies the different groups are going to employ. But the key is that we all have to work together. And one thing that we're hoping to do at the rally is to get some flyers out, get some information out. We'll have our Discord link hopefully on those flyers. So we'll be working on that. I got some people that are interested in handing those out. And there's also, of course, the Myth and the We the People Constitution. They're of course trying to get some information on the constitutional conventions out, maybe get some more people hopefully from that Wexit protest that will hopefully go to the constitutional convention the next day as well, which is what I'm getting to. But yeah, so lots of opportunity there. There's hopefully going to be lots of people there. I'm excited to see what comes of it. And it's definitely something that's on our radar, and something that we're going to be taking seriously. But the other thing we'll be taking seriously is the Constitutional Convention. That's going to be in Edmonton. It's going to be at a hotel. I forget what the name of the hotel is. If somebody wants to chime in from We the People, I'm guessing We the People is from We the People. Do you know which venue that is? Because I know Cody told me today, and now I forget what the name of the hotel is. Okay, so we'll come back to that at some point. I'll hopefully get that name and at least be able to get that out to you guys soon in an announcement. So definitely keep an eye out on those announcements, and we'll get you that information there for sure. I'll mention too that Myth is Canada does have a Discord now. It's linked in the Myth is Canada links channel, so you can feel free to go there and join them. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the last sort of sister Discord that we have, which is the Gaming and Entertainment Discord. Now, I'm really happy to announce this one because I'm honestly saddened that I didn't think of this before, because politics, is a great way for some people to engage on a personal level, but for a lot of other people, they don't like politics, and they don't even like talking about the Constitution or separation in general. They just don't want to. Not all the time, anyway. Maybe they have the same sentiments, but let's be honest, folks. We want to go about our day, and that's not the only thing we want to be thinking. But a great way for people to start connecting on a different level, in a more casual environment, is this gaming and entertainment Discord that we've come up with. So we're going to be playing, online poker, Scribblo, Hangman. I was looking for chess. I couldn't find any multiplayer chess, but yeah, any ideas for games that you guys think that would be good for us all to play? That get in that Discord, give us some ideas. We'd love to get something together that way, and that way we can have some fun, and get to know each other, and then from there those bonds will carry over obviously to this Discord, and it's going to get everybody more involved and everybody talking. So I really do think that it's a good approach to have. So what we're going to do basically is I'm going to have a channel made that's called the Games and Entertainment Channel. It'll be read only. The only thing it'll really have in there is a short description, and it'll have a short description in the link, and so you guys can join up and just come play some games with us. Don't have to talk about any politics. In fact, we would prefer you don't. And then we can come back here and gun it 100%. But everybody needs a break every once in a while, so that's a good way to blow off some steam. Anyhow, with that, I think I've pretty much covered all of our updates. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you guys haven't heard already, I guess Tony mentioned that Kathy is working with us. She was the former leader of Wexit Alberta, but unfortunately, some stuff happened. Basically, she tried to trademark Wexit Alberta, which of course was in the interest of the movement because they didn't want anybody to steal their name. But Peter didn't like that, and so unfortunately he let her go. And apparently he's let a lot of other important people in his core team go as well. So it's unfortunate to hear, but alas, we're gonna chug on. And yeah, no, it is funny too because Wexit itself actually wasn't trademarked by Peter or Eric or their movement, because it's not an organization, it's a movement. And yeah, so basically Matthew Holden, who apparently is this lawyer in Grand Prairie who's has ties to the NDP, has the trademark for Wexit. And going through the whole thing, I talked to our lawyer there. He's actually an intellectual property lawyer, and he told me basically that most likely Wexit will file opposition to Matthew's trademark application, because it is at this point in the application stage, right? And once they do that, then it has to go through the court system. That could take 2 years, maybe longer, especially with the backlogs in our courts. And until then, Wexit is not owned by anybody. It's not trademarked by them. So I think it's a pretty bad move on Peter's part, and Kathy was trying to be more to have more fortitude in that regard. But what can you do? Anyway, moving on to Keaton's portion. Keaton's tonight's going to be talking about innovation and technology. I'll talk a little bit about Keaton. He's helped us a lot with our website, developing it along with our website developer, Silly G. And he's also owns his own business, Red Lily Internet, which we're proud to be a partner with. And he runs our servers for the website. And so, he has a lot of knowledge in this regard. And he's going to be kind of talking about a lot of things that he knows a lot about. So I encourage you guys to think of any questions with regards to innovation technology. A lot of them Keaton's probably going to be able to answer, but if it is a question that's a little bit outside of his expertise, I'll open it up to maybe somebody else if they happen to have a good answer in mind. Feel free to pipe up and answer that question. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it off to Keaton now, and thanks for listening. Oh, actually, no, wait, sorry, my bad. I always like to do a question answer before that. So if you guys have any questions regarding what I just said, then feel free to put those in town hall notes. And also, if anybody wants to speak on some of the things that I just went over, then that's another thing that that we can do as well. Hopefully for just a minute or two, so we can hand it off to Keaton.
All right, thanks. Yeah,
No,
first
no,
off, I'd just like to.
one sec,
Oh,
Keaton. I'm just giving people a chance to type in questions on the opening segment. Sorry.
yeah, no problem.
Are you?
I guess whilst people are doing that, just would like to say, yeah, don't give me credit for developing the website. Basically,
Oh
the
yeah,
entire
it
credit
mostly
should
goes
go
to
to,
me.
yeah, it goes to Silly G, also known as Kitroware. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, I only host it.
There you go. I thought you were helping with some other minor aspects, but
I mean, some most of the time check over the code, but I don't really work in JS or web development. That's
yeah.
more
There you
his.
go. Well, I'm glad that both you guys are here. You guys have been awesome. Honestly, we couldn't have done this without you. So, um, yeah. Okay. So that's a great question for you later, Keaton. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm going to just say, hey, does anybody want to speak before we dive into innovation in tech? So this is your chance. You can let me know over mic or in the chat, whatever you prefer.
please save questions about innovation till after I open it up to Q&A after I'm finished my speech.
Oh, thank you, Kettle. Yeah, I'll mention that. So, okay, Kettle just brought up the information on the Edmonton event. So the Edmonton event is going to be at the Sands Inn at CJ's Diner from 6 to 9 p.m. in Edmonton. Supported by We the People Alberta Constitutional Convention, special speakers from the Mythos Canada, Unify the West, Alberta Independence Party, Jeff Sharp from Yellow Vest. More groups may be joining this great event to unify on Alberta on a solution. We will be keeping you up to date. You want a solution for Alberta? Do not miss this event. Thank you. Awesome. So, with that, as I said, does anybody want to speak? Now's your chance. Okay. I'm going to hand it off to Keaton then. You go ahead, buddy.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I mainly do computer networking. Um, I'll start off my speech here. Hello, my name is Keaton. I'll be tonight's expert for this virtual town hall. Tonight we'll be talking on the issue of innovation and technology. I will more specifically be talking about challenges of getting high-speed internet to all Westerners. Before I start off actually talking about the technology for everyone's clarity, I'm just going to go over a brief bit of terminology. Megabits are a unit of measurement for data. Megabits per second is a measurement of bandwidth. Latency is a measurement of the amount of time it takes data to get between computers. Latency and bandwidth are two very separate things. To give an analogy, like a water pipe, the faster the water is flowing would be like the latency of an internet connection. However, that's not the whole picture. If you have fast moving water in a small pipe, you can't fit a lot of water through that small pipe. Bandwidth, for this example, is the amount of water you can get through the pipe in a given time, which is the most important technical figure for talking about internet connections. With that preamble, actually on to my speech. Many of us are from rural areas, myself included. I am in the arm of Duck Lake in Saskatchewan and deal with a difficulty of getting fast internet. For me, for example, the best internet I can get is through a company who backs off the 4G network. With this, I can get around 25 megabits per second. This is enough for a few. Did I stop talking there? I don't know if my PTT cut.
No, you're fine.
All right. Yeah. So I get around 25 megabits per second download, and that's usually enough for several concurrent online HD video streams. For this, we pay $120 a month. Compare that to, say, somewhere in like North Korea. I can't speak sometimes. Compare that to, say, South Korea, which is debatably one of the leading tech countries out there, where in some of the rural areas it's common to find gigabit internet, which is equivalent to 1,000 megabits per second for $20 a month. Where was I? The problem with why... Damn it, I can't read sometimes. The problem with why I, and like many of us, cannot get those speeds is not due to price fixing or corporate manipulation or any of that. The problem is simple. There is no infrastructure. Where I live, there is a phone line that cannot support DSL and power. DSL is what likely most city dwellers get if they don't already have fiber. The only way I can get any internet is through radio through wireless methods. With my current provider, as I said, that's over 4G. Before that, I got about a 12th of my current internet connection at around 2 megabits per second until we found our current provider. If anyone is curious on this mysterious better provider that uses the 4G network, send me a private message afterward and I can get you in touch with them. You might be thinking, if we need more and we need to get it to rural areas, can we do more over radio? For our sake, no. There have been great strides in 5G technology promising gigabit speeds over wireless. The problem is that 5G has very limited range and can only work well in urban environments. There is, in the wireless world, either two choices for long distance data connections. Point to point, which can handle these kinds of speeds. However, you need a dedicated antenna for each individual connection. This is completely impractical for internet companies because they would have to set up a antenna on their tower as well as yours, and the equipment is quite expensive. Or there's point to multi-point, which is what most wireless connections are. You have one central tower that sends out to many points. The trade-off with this is that you can't get much speed per user. So, as a general trade-off, additionally, the farther you go out, the less bandwidth you can give. For a prosperous Western Canada, we need everyone to have access to fast, reliable internet. Wireless cannot be the final solution due to, as I mentioned, its bandwidth limitations. We need to deploy a new wave of infrastructure, preferably fiber to everywhere, but that's completely cost impractical. I mean, over a century it might be possible, but not in any kind of rational term. What I suggest we use is deploying 4G westward wide. It won't provide everyone with South Korean speeds, but it will give everyone an equal opportunity to access internet services. Therefore, giving everyone a chance to participate in the economy and getting people out of poverty, since now they can access reasonable internet speeds rather than dial up or satellite or point to multi-point, whatever that was that I was using before that got 2 megabits per second. Since internet, as I've just said, is such an important utility in the modern age, we need to make sure to safeguard it. You've likely seen talks and on the news about the company Huawei. Most techies would likely know them for their phones. However, a while back, the company was accused by the US of implementing spying chips that would feed information back to Beijing. This has not been confirmed with any kind of evidence. However, since
Just
Huawei,
sorry to interrupt. SaskTel's also checked all their towers. They check them monthly. I work for SaskTel, so I know they do check them monthly, and so far they've found nothing in our towers that would indicate it. But that's not to say it won't happen in the future. Sorry.
that does slightly come up, but I'll keep that in mind carrying forward. However, as I said, this has not been confirmed. Since Huawei is a Chinese company, it is entirely controlled by the Communist Party. And with what we know of China and its Communist Party, this is a very valid concern to prepare for. Even if it's not true, it might in future be embedded in their equipment. But what isn't to be feared is the spying in their phones. What's more important, as Tony, is that correct? Your name, Tolpe?
Yeah,
Is
sure.
okay. As Tolpe mentioned, that SaskTel has Huawei. What's more important with Huawei is their infrastructure. They make large-scale infrastructure equipment, along with some smaller stuff, but mainly their market is for companies like SaskTel, and they are the leading company on developing 5G. What's more, as I have written on my screen, is the fact that a majority of SaskTel's cellular equipment is Huawei, after speaking with a SaskTel employee. However, as Tony mentioned, that they are checked regularly for this, we cannot rely on Huawei equipment. We need, ideally, our own leader in the technological space, if not a Western aligned company to compete with Huawei. There are other companies that do compete with Huawei, but Huawei is the leader in 5G. And as I said with Beijing, we cannot have that. That pretty much is everything I have typed. I kind of scrambled to write that down. That's pretty much everything I have to talk about. I believe Death beforehand mentioned there was a third topic that I should bring up. However, it is
Yeah,
not coming.
there's a couple other things. So, what are your views on net neutrality?
Yes, that was the main thing I was thinking of. Just for everyone's clarification, if you don't already know, net neutrality is the practice by internet service providers of giving priority to certain kinds of traffic and completely slowing down to unbearable speeds to other kinds of internet traffic. This practice has been illegal in Canada and the US. There have been fights to repeal such legislation, but if it is repealed, it will completely take away our ability to have an open and free internet where everyone is treated the same. That's the principle of net neutrality. All traffic is to be treated the same. And for our freedom, we cannot have that. Otherwise, the internet companies, regardless of the internet, regardless of the government, can shut down someone's site. Not completely, but practically without saying they have, if that makes sense. Real,
Basically, make it impossible for any traffic to go there.
yeah. You can drive down this highway, but you can only do it at 5 kilometers an hour. is the equivalent.
Yeah, makes sense. But the other thing, there's a couple other things actually. I was hoping we talk about censorship. What's going on in the censorship world? What's some of the new stuff that's out there? Are you aware of it? What are your views on it? What are your views on some of the things you've seen on different social media platforms? Maybe heard from people on here.
I'm not big into social media. I mainly use Discord. What sticks out in mind of internet censorship is the Great Firewall of China, as it's known. The Great Firewall. It is a massive amount of firewall equipment set up by the Chinese government for mainland China. And I watched a couple technical presentations on some people poking the bear, if you will, at the firewall, and it's quite scary, put simply. I guess now I'll leave the floor open to Q&A.
Oh no. There's a couple other
Oh.
things I have. Actually, I want to ask your opinion first off. This is a great one for you here, because we remember it's only 7:40. We're trying to extend this discussion. So, what's your opinion on the current telecom companies that are in this country, how they operate, and would you want to see them in a new West, and how would you want to see them operate in a new West?
Well, for one, Canada has the most expensive mobile data plans in the world. There's nothing that I can think of off the top of my head to blame. But
Well,
there's gonna be there's some reason for.
I can, so I'll chime in on that then.
All right.
So in Canada, we don't actually set the prices low enough from a regulation standpoint that these companies can't jack our rates. The way we have it set up for telecom companies in this country is pathetic. It's actually one of the few things that the NDP actually has a point on, is that the telecom companies are scamming fucking Canadians.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they're completely gouging us, and compared to other countries, it's nothing near. And that's because none of the governments have let it get this bad. But our government tends to listen to lobbyists over the people.
Yeah, and in future we need government accountability. However, I think that might be a better discussion for the Constitution Conference.
Yeah, we also need the government to stop changing our wireless code of conduct every single month, because that is getting really old when I have to at work review our wireless code of conduct contracts just because he changes it so much. He just can't make up his mind what's working and what's not. So that doesn't help cut costs down for telecom either, when we're always having to shuffle around to try and make changes every single month to how we're operating just because he's got it in his head that it works when we live in rural areas, and Saskatchewan and Alberta have a lot of it, and we need to be able to get services out to them. And when we're taking efforts away from that to try and update all of our wireless code of conduct and all of our policies and everything every month, well, it gets hard to try and get all that out to rural areas, which is what they've been trying to do in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, it's almost all by design, because making it life tough for rural areas seems to be a common trend with a lot of these things.
Exactly.
Does anyone mind if I chime in?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Well, part of the thing, I don't know if anyone ever caught the article. It didn't really pop up too long. A while ago, I read something in regards to telecom company. We have the big three in Canada: Rogers, Bell, Telus. They own pretty well all the towers across the country, other than I think Saskatchewan, which has Bell.
I think also Quebec and Quebec.
Rogers only sets up. Yeah. Rogers only sets up in big centers. They don't set up in rural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell me about it growing up in North BC. But a while ago, I know from coming up from the States anyways, they wanted to put companies like Verizon wanted to come up and start putting in their towers. And then the government of Canada stepped in and said, no, we want these 3 Canadian companies, and kibosh the whole thing. Thing is those companies were able to try to put these towers up in remote areas where, TELUS, Bell, and Rogers said, it's too expensive, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. I think my screen locked there. So should the West separate and actually succeed in this endeavor, which I really hope it does, because let me tell you, the rest is bullshit. Would we open up to companies that are currently operating in the States and offering technologies and to build towers and get service to more rural areas and things? Would we allow them to start operating up here too?
I guess we'll be at this point. We're opening up the Q&A portion.
Well, actually, one thing I wanted to go over with you, Keaton, is what's your opinion on Discord Nitro? Because I know you know Discord a lot. What's your opinion on it? You've had experience with it. Does it improve all the sound quality like it says, and what's the difference on that?
Well, the sound quality is determined on what server boost level we have. So since we only have level 1, we can't get terribly comparatively can't get let me actually bump it up now that I'm in the settings. There we go. We don't get the full quality, but it's purely based off of what server boost level you're at and the server you're on, and dependent on the admins to make sure to bump up the bit rate to that higher level.
Well, I know that you have a server that's boosted, isn't it? To like what level is that one?
Level 3, which is the max.
Yeah. So what's your experience on there? How did you like the Discord Nitro? What's your feedback?
The voice quality, I mean, I really can't comment on it because of my shitty internet. Um, but it's mainly the supposedly you can also get free. Supposedly you can get free games and stuff like that through Discord. I haven't really messed around with it. I sometimes play video games, sometimes I don't, kind of in the general focus of what I have been interested in lately, which has mainly been on Discord and on studying for my CCNP and CCIE. But it's mainly to support servers is why I have it.
Cool. Well, I mean, on that note, I will mention that if anybody's interested in server boosting us, you can do that by hitting the drop down list and then hitting the server boost. You can go through and set up your credit card or whatever. Basically, the best way that I found is you just usually want to you can either do a boost for $5 a month, or you can get 2 boosts for $10 a month and have it be a subscription. And once you have the subscription, then any further boosts you do are $3.50. So definitely a way that you can support us without actually then the money obviously all goes to Discord, not us.
Well,
But
the
we can also have the server banner, and there's a lot of other and a unique URL. So instead of that random bunch of numbers and letters that scares people, it'll be Unify the West. Which Ghost did say that he's gonna server boost it as well, and but yeah, we'll hopefully that'll pan through. But yeah, looking forward to that. Go ahead, Keaton. Sorry.
Well, that's not quite how it works. There's the Nitro Boost subscription, which you can get, which is $5 for the first one and three, I believe, for additional ones. It's $3.50. Um, However, there's Nitro Classic, which actually gives you all of the Nitro features. The Nitro Boost is just boosting a server, whereas the Nitro Classic gives you everything, and it includes two free boosts. So at level 1, which is what we currently have, we can add a animated server icon and a custom invite background, which I believe we have not set up. At level 2, which we require 15 boosts, we are currently at 4. We can add a server banner and some other stuff. And at level 3, we get that vanity URL, which requires 30 boosts.
So yeah, we'll definitely can dive into question answer. So how this will work with you and I, Keaton, is I'll ask you the questions going from the very first question that was asked, and then you can feel free to answer. While we're doing this, guys, think of some questions regarding innovation, technology, the telecom industry, that sort of thing. And hopefully Keaton or one of the other experts here can answer your question. I know that Tool Pete's also from SaskTel, so he has a lot of great information in that regard too. So if you want to chime in, Tony, if you have any good points on some of these questions, feel free. Yeah, so I'll ask the first question. What do you think about SpaceX's idea to make their new Starlink satellite network be encrypted P2P, peer to peer?
I think that's definitely a good move against, uh, well, not so much censorship, but for privacy. The problem, the problem that I have with Starlink is that I'm not 100% sure if they are going to be using geosynchronous or polar orbit satellites. I believe they are going to be using polar orbit satellites. Is the latency, and since they're using the K band, is the cost of actually getting and installing the equipment. Those are two concerns that I have.
So another question for you. What would be the best and most cost-effective way to get actual high-speed internet to remote regions of the West?
Um, Cost effective. Just because the area of Western Canada is so large, there isn't, in my opinion, a good way to have cost effective to all of Western Canada, but I think the best way is 4G. It isn't cheap by a measure. It isn't fast by urban standards, but it's a good speed that will do for most households and is the cheapest way to get that speed of internet to rural areas. I think Tony might be uh, better to chime in on that if you have any
Definitely
comments.
4G, I would say, is definitely the way to go. 5G
Yeah.
kind of scares me just because of all the security stuff that's been
Hmm.
going around with that. And it's supposed to be actually fairly easy to hack 5G,
Oh,
which
I
makes me
have it.
nervous as well.
And explosive.
4G is definitely what I would say is most cost effective too, and going to be the most reliable out in all those areas. That's what SaskTel's been working on, getting all their towers bumped up to. It's just been an expensive go to upgrade all the towers.
Yeah, with 5G, just the radius is so low, and if you're a ISP, you've got to go with Huawei basically at this point, is how I see it. But again,
Yeah,
I don't really deal with or don't know too much about cellular technologies. I mean, I know uh, some, but I think Tony might be the better person to speak on that, but I think 4G is the way to go.
I would 100% agree 4G. I wouldn't go any other route. I see. Someone's asking 5G harmful to birds. I have heard that. I haven't done a lot of research on whether or not it's harmful to animals or not, but I have heard that the signal can affect the way that they fly. But again, I haven't done any research on that either.
Well, I have my amateur radio license. I have my advanced amateur radio license, and the amount of power that 5G is outputting, unless they are standing on the exposed antenna lead, then they're fine.
Okay. Yeah. See, like I said, I haven't done research on 5G on that part of 5G.
Yeah, I have a decent understanding of RF theory and stuff like that. Just the actual technology behind it, I don't know.
Herbie.
For which?
Ben.
Oh, Braden's cardboard.
I have a good question, real quick. What more do you guys think we can do to support the smaller businesses in the internet and telecom industry, as opposed to these three big companies?
Regulatory, I'm gonna have to completely hand that off to Tony.
Yeah. The problem is with those big companies is they drive up the prices so much that it definitely makes it a challenge for any company to, I don't know, make money while using them. It can be a struggle. SaskTel for us, we had our prices really low, and we've been getting our arms twisted to increase prices so that now it's pretty much equal with them. But Saskatchewan still has some of the lowest rates in the country. So people who do go to university out of province, they still keep SaskTel plans, or people who live near the border, they keep SaskTel plans. But I don't know if there's really a great solution for trying to help out all the small businesses and all that with like all these small telecom companies, because these big guys have the ear of the government right now, like the federal government. And that's why Trudeau has been changing policies so much, is because he's big with Rogers. So he has been making rules that will help out Rogers, basically. So that is a big problem, considering, like I said before, Rogers does not service rural areas, and they have no intention of doing so, because they don't want to set up their own towers. They don't even pay SaskTel to operate off our towers. Every other company does, and we pay them to operate in theirs and other provinces.
Oh, I
But
thought only Bell did.
no, TELUS pays for our towers too.
Oh,
It's an agreement we have with them.
Well,
Same
do you
with
think
when
maybe
we go
one
to Alberta,
solution
we
might
pay them.
be... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Do you think one solution might be like oh, what was I gonna say again? Sorry. Okay. I think I'll just move on because I'm forgetting now. I
Sound
lost
like my brain.
I knew Brendan.
Yeah, I know, right? Um, well, it looks like that's pretty much all of the questions that we have there.
well, I see one, the Black
Oh,
Robe asking about, can you one-time boost? It's no, I don't believe so. It's completely subscription based, because it's how many boosts we are receiving at one time. So it isn't a you've been given 4 boosts. It's how many people are boosting at this time.
I just remembered my question. So, do you think, Tony, that if we reduce the power that lobbyists have with government, that might help? Something along that lines. that's kind of the long lines I'm thinking. I'm thinking that could be the solution for a lot of problems. Is like the way that we have our lobbyist system set up right now really goes against what a democratic government should be.
Yeah, I would say definitely lobbying is definitely a good route to take. That's going to be the only way I think that the government would even listen, because they certainly haven't cared at all what Scott Moe or SaskTel heads have had to say about any of his changes, because we have been very vocal about it. So that might be the only other way, is to have actual citizens lobbying and pressuring the government into actually getting prices lower and more affordable.
Yeah, again, it's probably one of the few things out of the NDP platform I actually sympathize with, because our internet rates are ridiculous. We definitely need to do something about bringing it down. And I think if we're in a new country, that's going to be one of the first changes. But yeah, I let me see if there's any more questions here. First off, yeah, outlaw corporate lobbyists and rid ourselves of monopolies and cartels. Not bad ideas. There you go. Get rid of the milk cartel. Yeah. So yeah. Go ahead, Ed. I'll pass it off to you. Ed wants to speak about the future of oil in Alberta.
Hey guys, how's it sound right?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Ed? Oh, we don't hear you if you're trying to speak.
I was watching a program yesterday, and they were talking about the demographics of the population of Alberta and the macroeconomics of oil around the world. And it became obvious that the states, with all the fracking and all the oil companies, have left Alberta, Saskatchewan, and moved down to Texas, and the shale and the technologies that they've got. There's going to be an overabundance in the next few months of oil, and it's going to be light sweet crude coming out of their shale. And they're saying basically that Alberta, and the way the government's handling all the pipelines and all that stuff, and the fact that there's heavy crude, or I think it's mid-grade crude, that comes out of the tar sands, and most of the refineries that are down in the Louisiana basin or / Houston area, which is where most of the pipelines lead, and that's where a lot of the refining is done. That if they want to if Alberta wants to capitalize, or Canada wants to capitalize on the tar sands, they better get that Keystone project finished, and finished quick. Because otherwise, they're going to start changing the refineries so that they'll only be refining light sweet crude, which is coming out of their shale, and they've got lots of it. Right now, it would be a good thing if Keystone would get finished and pumping oil through there. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen, not with this, with the assholes we got in Ottawa. Has anyone given any thought to building oil refineries, or putting incentives for refining oil and all the various distillates that come out of that, and actually boosting the plastics industry, be it and other related petrochemicals, and actually get that refining done in Alberta, so that you guys will have a product to export. Otherwise,
Yeah,
if you don't get on this now, it's going to crush your economy even further.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's
we've
been
actually
lots of
been
talk
talking about
on getting refineries going in Alberta. I was just going to speak to one thing that Ghost said, because he's in the oil and gas industry. Play devil's advocate a little bit here. So of course, lots of people have been saying, of course, we need to increase refining capacity. I personally agree. But Ghost did say that we do pretty much already have sufficient refining capacity, and one of the main things we don't have that some other places do is the ability to refine some of these plastics that Ed mentioned. And these plastics are pretty harmful to the environment and all that sort of stuff. As well as he personally did the benefit of manufacturing those plastics here. So I guess Ed, how would you respond to that? Interested to hear.
Well, here in Ontario, I used to be in the plastic injection molding industry back in 2000, 2002. Huge industry. 2003, 2004, China took a lot of that tooling away. It also took away some of that production. And a lot of smaller machine shops closed, a lot of small tool shops closed here in Southern Ontario. I'd say about 40 to 50% of the industry was wiped out. And we're slowly going to be losing our automotive plastics industry. Detroit / Windsor. Windsor's got it also. It came back, but it was kind of a dog eat dog because the components are not producing them in the millions. It's usually in the hundreds of thousands. So it's kind of a, I don't know, bastardized kind of industry where you make the tool as cheap as you can just for the life of the product. So it's kind of a different industry. But in New Jersey, there's huge amounts of plastic refining being done. And yet I don't hear about all the environmental damage that's being done out there. The fact that you guys have it close, you could secondary industries. That's where a lot of the wealth comes from, not just pulling the oil out of the ground. And quite frankly, you pull it out of the ground, it doesn't cost you much. They're also saying that shale oil coming out of the States is going to be close to a break-even point of about $20 a barrel shortly, with new technology coming out. So sure, there is environmental concerns, but let's face it, people in Canada, we used to be a pretty bright, well-educated populace. I think we can beat this.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I'll say too. Well, I'll read some of the stuff Kettle's saying because you should pipe up. That's we refine more than enough, but we don't have a way to effectively ship the final product. So I think that ties in with what Ghost said: is we have enough refining capacity now, just because we don't have the ability to export the amount to need more refining capacity. Which is a good point. And Kettle says I work for a major plastics manufacturing company. Most of our raw material comes from China and the eastern U.S. seaboard. None of it's made in Canada.
Well, there you go. Like I said, a lot of that stuff's coming out of New Jersey. That's the hub for plastic pelletizing, and that's a huge hub for raw resources. BASF is there, along with DuPont and the other major plasticizing companies. You can also make plastic from natural gas, eh?
Well, yeah, look at Joffrey. Joffrey, Alberta is companies and fertilizer companies, etc., is the end product of the three major manufacturing facilities in Joffrey, Alberta. And again, it's all natural gas and other parts that come from refineries, different places in Alberta sands. So actually just producing end products or that kind of thing, that's actually where we need to go. Well, that's our focus, and that comes with not just the oil industry, but also industry and the agricultural industry as well. I think these are all opportunities that we can make work down the road. It's just give them an understanding how to make it viable.
Like myself as a tool maker, I was in the tooling industry for a while. There was not too many plastic tooling shops or major ones in Alberta. Actually, none that come to mind. And right there is a huge industry. If you get the tooling, you get the plastic pelletizing, vertical integration, lower distribution costs, so you can be shipping this stuff worldwide. And just by coming out of the field, and then a couple miles down the road, you got finished product coming out. There's a huge advantage to that. Something to consider, guys.
Yeah, for sure. You make some good points. Well, guess we've sort of maybe run out of stuff to talk about on innovation technology a little early then. Unless anybody has any more questions, or if Keaton or Tony have anything else they'd like to add.
I think I'm good.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to think of something, but I can't.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We got through that. um, well, I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess we could maybe dive into it, or we could just open up the discussion. What do you guys think? Does anybody
Well,
else have anything they'd like to talk about? Maybe Kate.
yeah, I was late to the party because my phone was ringing off the hook. So we're talking about technologies and all that. Has there been talk about infrastructure for the technologies?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Because that's kind of, I think infrastructure can be several different topics, whether it be internet, power grid, roads, water, sewer. But tonight being technology, I think the internet and the power grid is probably the two main focuses for the infrastructure that we'd be speaking of, right?
Yeah, we talked about internet, but we haven't spoken about power. I'm not sure of areas that don't have access to power, but I mean, I haven't lived outside of a 30-mile.
Well, in the east, there's a lot more issues with power that I hear of. So,
Mm.
like, especially in the Maritimes, lots of issues with power there. Nova Scotia power going down in Newfoundland, power
Well,
going
with
down in,
the
in
like
Quebec.
hurricanes that they get,
Yeah.
probably is what knocks it out.
Yeah, they get more extreme weather than than we do. That's part of the reason, right? Out
Mhm.
here in Alberta and even in like the other prairie provinces, we don't get like we get some fairly bad weather, don't mind you, but not as bad as some of the stuff that they get out east, right? And even on the west coast. I guess west coast not.
If I
Okay,
can cut
so
here,
go ahead.
I also came by some information where in the next 5 years, coal's been a pretty major player in the power industry. There's so much supply of natural gas right now in North America that coal will be pretty much wiped out in the next 5 years just because it's going to be cheaper to run natural gas at below $3 a cubic meter. It's going to be so cheap that they're going to be shutting down power coming from Hydro Quebec. Quebec's going to be big problems with all the overabundance of power that they've got. It's just not going to be cost competitive anymore. So that's another area where you guys got to capitalize on. Are they still flaming off sour gas?
Yeah, well, yes, but they're trying to cut that down and move it through pipelines to clean it and to use it for other uh, things, which is a lot of the stuff that goes to Joffrey is that kind of funneled off energy. So they are actually and have been for quite a while finding ways to actually utilize it. It's just that some of it is so dangerous that they have to burn it off just because. The other thing too is how many people are aware of the power plant up in Dap, Alberta? Have you
No,
any of you heard of that place?
I have not heard of
Nope.
that.
Okay, well it's northwest of uh oh shit, I'll think of the name. Anyways, it's up in the north. It's northwest of Edmonton, not far from Barhead and that kind of area. Westlock, and what they do is they truck in ground up wood products from garbage dumps, whether it be Edmonton or Grand Prairie or wherever, and they truck that in. And they also use all of the cuttings and the extra things from pulp mills and etc. and lumber mills, all the bark and all that. They burn it in a wood furnace and create steam, and then use that to drive a turbine, and they produce electricity. And it's a very, very viable option. The other sub product of this is, as they bring all these products in from these various places and they put them in piles, those piles of wood, they break down and they become soil. So they actually sell soil on the side as well as producing electricity. And that's just one place in Alberta that makes a ton of electricity using products that are being thrown away, literally thrown away. And we could do that in 3 or 4 other places and then use the coal and the natural gas for other uses. And that's just one example. I put it in the comments. It's under my name. It's DAP, DAPP. And it's DAP Power. It's in here in Alberta. You can Google it, and it's quite amazing. And I used to deliver the wood there by truck. They produce a lot of electricity, and it's very profitable. It's extremely profitable.
That sounds really awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
What's your guys' opinion on nuclear energy and all that uranium in the ground in Saskatchewan and all these initiatives that they're pushing for the nuclear power sector?
Thorium. Thorium is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a place for it. It's so well contained now. It's so the technology has come so far. They can do now with a power plant the size of a elementary school that it used to take, a whole city to make. Um, as far as an area, like 3 Mile Island and all these things, like the technology now, they're able to take the same size nuclear power plant that powers an American aircraft carrier and power entire cities with them. So it's definitely, again, it's a way to produce electricity, pollute, and other formidable energy sources. And some of these older style things, again with coal and natural gas, etc., to be able to use those products for other sectors to make them more viable. So it's definitely something to look at. So
I have another guy with a comment here I'll read out. I found kind of interesting. I was talking to a surveyor today who says Sask Power is looking at using natural gas generators to power smaller rural communities. Never told me who the generators were going to be bought through. Probably some globalist corporation based in Europe, like they did for the wind turbines. Well, that's a good question for maybe Tony. Do you know that? I guess Sask Power. You're with SaskTel, not Sask Power.
Well, again, I mean, these globalists are not stupid. They know how to push their products and own things and make it work. Um, so as far as I know, hey, maybe DAP Power is owned by fucking Soros. I don't know. But again, my bottom line is that all these things are available to us. We have people with the knowledge, we have the engineers, and I don't care who's doing it. Let's just do it ourselves. Let's make this. Alberta does Alberta Power, BC does BC Power, Saskatchewan does Saskatchewan Power. Every new country that used to be a Canadian province is self-sufficient and vibrant, and that again frees us up for doing things together on the world stage.
Yeah, totally.
My thing is like I said, I mean, I missed out on the internet discussion and everything, but I know that we don't need 5G. I think 3G is quite good. I know 4G is fast. What it comes down to is capacity and having enough towers or other broadcast things around the country that to make things work.
And that's what these guys were saying, is that 4G is probably the way to go, and we have to have a heavy focus on infrastructure.
Yeah. I think that makes more sense.
And my opinion is that once we get 4G, it's then time to, like, over a century maybe, to have everywhere, in even the rural areas, have fiber. I think Tony might disagree with me on that, simply because it's ridiculously expensive, but that's what I think should be done.
I don't think it's ridiculously expensive. I mean, take a look at how things were before this all came along. Back when we had SaskTel and Alberta government telephones and BC Tel, it was lines of copper going through the ground, and everybody had a landline telephone. Everybody could talk to everybody, and then certain remote areas we were using analog radios. Um, all the infrastructure is possible. Everything can be put in, and yeah, if we could put fiber,
It's over $1,000 per kilometer just for the cable.
yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah, it's expensive, just not gonna be quick.
right. But as the country grows and as we build roads to the new factory, roads to the new
Mhm.
town, around the factory and all that. Well, guess what? We put the line in beside it, the same as we put our water lines and our sewer lines and power lines and all this. Uh,
Mhm.
it's all, again, that's jobs, that's manufacturing, that's the guy that spent $130,000 to build a track hoe. Now he's got a job to go do. That's This is how you build the country. This is exactly how we do it. We create these programs and create these jobs, build this infrastructure, and then maintain it and make it work. That's
Well,
you know
so I'll play devil's advocate here for a second. Black Robe's making some comments. He's saying the arms race is in 5G. First to full 5G wins. As the technology increases, it needs 5G. AI is the next arms race. Do you want to be Cuba trapped in 1950 of the 21st or 22nd century? So
Yes.
how would you guys respond to that?
Okay.
Here's what I would say is that 5G has such limited range
Mm,
that it would be more expensive to implement 5G than it would be fiber.
yeah. I'm not sure if Black Robe was in at the same time I was in the late 90s. But before Canada's military and especially our infantry became so electronic like it is now, back when the Americans were and the Brits were getting there really closely, we didn't have that. And we would still beat them in war games because they would be so dependent on the electronics and the communication and everything else. We would just simulate an EMP, walk in with no electronics, and steal the flag. Um, and again, analog communications, yes, goes far further than this digital stuff. Is Yes, it's easier to intercept. There's all these other ways with it. Yeah, Black Robe, right? Yeah, we had runners to comms. Exactly. That's what we did. We went old school and we used to kick their ass all the time. There's ways around this. 5G is has got its advantages, absolutely, but there's other ways to make this all work. I think right now the problem with 5G is that it's being used in a nefarious way. And it is a weapon. 5G is being designed to be a weapon. It's not so that we have faster internet. That's not what they want it for. That's my opinion anyway.
I think a lot of other people agree with you. They're skeptical of Huawei's intentions, especially with the recent history with China and the fact that they're trying to expand their trade, their drug, their online infrastructure network across the world to gain more influence.
Well, there was just a bunch of arrests in Winnipeg yesterday, and they made the announcement today. And some of the things that they were finding is people thought they were buying marijuana, but they were buying a remanufactured fentanyl made to look like marijuana. And
I saw that story.
People are dying from it within a minute.
Yeah.
They are doing everything they can to beat us from the inside out. That is their agenda, and so the key thing is just another form of that. The people in Lethbridge and Medicine Hat that are putting in some of these, and the amount of electricity going through the ground, going to these 5G towers to run them is scary. How powerful these fucking things are. Well, guess what? We don't need that kind of power to broadcast your cell phone. We've been doing it for a couple of decades just fine with, milliamps, not megawatts.
Cell towers don't use megawatts of power, and milliwatts wouldn't be able to reach any kind of distance.
Yeah. So why are they doing what they're doing? It's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, no, it really is. Well, with that, guys, I mean, I think what I'll do is I'll open up free discussion. Thanks everybody for attending the town hall. I know it was a little bit shorter than some of our other ones. Went 90 minutes instead of 2 hours. I think there's been a couple that have been like that. But yeah, we'd like to have free discussion. Keep talking, guys, and hear what anybody has to say. Feel free to chime in. I think that was awesome.
Yeah, I kind of missed most of it, so
I don't remember who it was